welcome back. Hi, Harry. How are you?
I'm good. How are you, Sally?
Really good. Really excited about this episode of When Harry Met Sally. I can't even say it. A podcast about photography. I think that's important that we talk about that.
Yeah.
It's been an amazing few weeks of interviews and chatting to people.
Conversations.
And today is absolutely no different. We have an amazing person with us today that I first met last year when I rang her and said, "Hi, I'm Sally Brownbill." She said, "Yes." And I was mostly excited about it because this guest had originally come from Warrnambool, which is down near where we have a house, and we had that in common. And I gave her a call, and we are going to be talking to the wonderful Vanessa Gerrans from the Ballarat Biennale. How are you, Vanessa?
I'm well, thank you. Thank you for having me.
Hi, Vanessa. Thanks so much for being here.
Oh, it's great. Thanks so much for coming down and being here at Col Arts with us today. We so appreciate it.
I seem to recall welcoming you with open arms, Sally. Photographers are my people.
Yay, you did.
Yay.
You absolutely did. So we've got so many fantastic things that we want to talk to you about.
I'm going to jump straight in, I think,
go for
because
it.
I don't know Vanessa as well as you, and I'm so excited to hear your background, Vanessa. But I'd just love to start with how you came to be running the Ballarat Photo Biennale. I think that's a really fascinating thing for our audience to hear. Like, how do you get in a position like that?
Yeah, well, I mean, it's a long journey. It wasn't exactly on purpose, but I'm happy to be in Ballarat. The whole thing has been a little bit of an exercise of holding one's nerve. Because last year was my first festival, and it was also the 10th anniversary of the festival, so it was
It's pretty big.
a milestone occasion.
Yeah, huge.
And I also, probably shouldn't admit to this in public, but I hadn't seen a festival before. I had spent 7 years prior to moving to Ballarat running the Warrnambool Art Gallery, which is a beautiful gallery, but and it has some photography in the collection, but it's not a specialist focus necessarily. And so, it was a really interesting process of just like, what are the hallmarks of this Ballarat International Photo Biennale? And that in itself takes a little bit of time. So,
But do you know what? I think that's actually, in hindsight, a really fantastic thing, because if you go in with really fresh eyes into anything, it takes on, you put your own stamp on it rather than sort of being there and sort of thinking, well, if this was mine, I'd do this and I'd do that. I think having that fresh stamp really shone last year.
So interesting to hear as well for, people listening that, you have skills in all sorts of different areas in life. Everyone has all these skills and they can be transferable.
Exactly.
You don't have to necessarily have a huge background in one particular area.
No, that's right. And it's an attitude, I think. It's sort of like, I like to start by listening to people, and often it's the community of visitors or residents in Ballarat, because it's such an important highlight to the visitor economy there at a particular time of year, not necessarily a peak time. And it's a huge driver of visitation to Ballarat, so the community gets behind it. We have to engage a lot of sponsors and donors, and so there's that aspect. But also listening to what photographers are interested in, and so a lot of it is transferable from getting to know your community and finding the right balance.
And so on that note, what was your background? What did you study? I think people would be really interested to that, to even get into working in galleries.
Yeah, well, I'm actually from West Australia, and I studied visual art at Curtin University.
Bit of a plug there for Curtin.
And then when I graduated,
And did you do that knowing I want to be a da-da? Or did you go, I'm just visually interested in being an artist, but I'm not really sure?
I had an early interest in law, and then I changed my mind at the last moment, who knows, fortuitous maybe. So I went down the visual arts path, but then I realised towards the end of that I personally am just a little bit better at assisting people. Like I'm a helper. I sort of found it difficult finding my own discernment process with my own artwork, but when it came to other people's, I just had a little bit more clarity. But with that background of being able to sort of
it's either that or being a nurse, right? So
yeah. Well, it is
totally
caring for people, being an artist.
Absolutely.
It is. I can totally understand that. I did a talk last night and I sort of, for the first time, vocally admitted that as well, that actually my own art, although I enjoy making photography and I'm proud of the work I do, actually I get real value of helping other people.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Me too, yeah.
And if you're sort of, if you've got an interest in being an interlocutor, and I really enjoy
A what?
putting people together.
An interlocutor.
Yes.
Sort
Is
of
that a
like-
word?
Love that.
Yeah, it is
I
a word.
love that word.
Yeah.
Locking
well,
people,
like, can I be
locking
one?
people
Yeah,
together.
well, that's it. I
Can
love making stuff happen.
I think you are.
Yeah, I love that word. I love making stuff happen, and Harry and I are a really good example of, we just had this idea and we went, let's make it happen. Let's do this podcast.
Exactly.
And
Yeah.
okay.
100%.
So you had all that going on, and then you came across to.
Then I came across, because at the time there weren't many, if any, arts administrative courses. So I came over to Melbourne to do the Masters of Curating, which is still going at Melbourne Uni.
At Melbourne Uni, yeah.
And I worked at the same time at the RMIT Gallery
Yep.
Yeah.
at RMIT University upstairs in Story Hall for 10 years while I was doing, I was there for 10 years, but I did that at the same time as doing my master's. So, which was great because, one of the things, the best way to learn is just, I think,
On the job.
On the
To
job.
do it, yeah.
And so it was a really nice balance. And then what I discovered is just the creative orchestration of individual exhibitions or programs was enough for me. Like, that's where I sort of can contribute creatively, whilst hopefully also helping other people to sort of visualise what they are interested in.
And so once you got to Ballarat and took on the role, what was, I guess, the most exciting thing about sort of having this huge, like, it seems like quite a beast ahead of you to curtail? Like, what was the most exciting thing about that?
It is a beast, and I did find myself in the early stages wondering, because when you're at an art gallery, you pace these programs, and you have a nice sort of like even up and down,
Even flow.
open,
One,
even
flow.
flows. You
We'll
do.
close
It's quite
and then we'll open another.
So the pace maybe shouldn't have come as a surprise, but it is. There's a trick to it, and there's an exciting amount of, like, literally the adrenaline that comes from having to push everything into this one moment. So that was exciting. The Biennale is really good at doing significant headline shows and also shows that are popular. So I really like the dynamism of the balance and layers in this program. And for us, it was really exciting to have Platon as our headline last year.
Amazing.
It was. We were lucky just to get, to invite someone who's internationally renowned but hadn't had an exhibition before, because Platon takes portrait photographs. Often they're shown on magazine covers.
Yes.
So he would say
It was
his
such a
gallery
kudos
is his
for the
magazine
for
stands.
the Biennale to get him, wasn't it?
It was, and just working through with an individual to sort of craft that sort of visceral experience that was really a special moment.
Yeah, and having him actually there as well to open it must have been great.
Yeah, especially because he's a special personality, sort of a magical orator, and he had the story of purpose behind the reason for doing the work. So it felt really meaningful at the same time as being, something that would attract people to Ballarat.
Absolutely. And going to Ballarat, we've talked to a lot of people about their work-life balance. I mean, you would have had to have uprooted your family to... How did you convince them we're going to Ballarat?
Well, I have the benefit, I've got 2 young daughters, so they don't have a huge amount of say. But I did come to realise why people don't move cities too often. It's sort of, it was very interesting.
And are they happy up there?
They are, it's
good.
Ballarat's gorgeous. And, the community of supporters of, because this festival has been going for, will be the 20th year. It was started by Jeff Morfoot in Dalesford in 2005 and then outgrew Dalesford to move to Ballarat. But during that time, it's built up, an awareness of photography, a love of photography, and a knowledge about it. So people will test you. They know a lot in Ballarat about photography.
They do. And Jeff and I went to university together.
Did you?
Yeah. So we were, obviously he's a little bit older than me. But so Jeff, when he started that, it was out of a passion and a love for making things happen. And it's such a huge thing that it's when it moved to Ballarat and, working on a shoestring back in those days and not really having a huge support, and over the years just getting more and more support and understanding the business of putting a festival on, and you've come in at this hugely exciting time, I think.
Yeah. Oh, he might be your senior, but I would say he's no less energetic, and he was. It was nice full circle because he curated a show in the festival last year, and but then I do notice the contrast just in talking to Jeff between what it was like to stage a festival back then.
Oh, it was tough.
And it's hard to do on a shoestring now because it's so competitive with other forms of entertainment. So
No, he did an amazing job, as are you. And one of the things that I'd like to ask, because I've been involved in it from the beginning, there was a few years there that I wasn't for various reasons, but I wanting to know about the traditions that you're deciding to keep. So back then we used to do a lot of portfolio reviews, and we'd have people from all walks of industry, from editorial and journalism and myself and other photographers and international guests, and it was such a great thing, and people would come from far and wide for the folio reviews. And that we did a small one last year. I did one last year, but are there any other traditions that you've kept or that you've changed or that you want to bring back? Because that was my first festival, we tried to do a little bit of sort of testing space whilst, not blowing it up out of existence. I mean, if we had the funds to do everything we wanted to do all the time, I'd be a very happy lady. So it's really at the moment finding a balance, respecting the traditions and I guess we're reacting to what we're hearing from people. Like, if that was something that you loved and want to bring back, then I'm all for it. What I really want to do is make sure that there's different access and entry points for all genres of photography. Fantastic.
Because, there's a relevance in all of those things. It is the beautiful thing about the festival. It's not strictly visual art. Like, we want a space for commercial practice. And we've been talking about that a lot because not only have we been doing the sort of festival preparation, but we're also jointly building the National Centre for Photography as a permanent space down the road. And so it is all just part of the mix. Like, I don't really know if I know the answer to those questions, but I know I want more personalities involved in making those decisions. It's got to be a sort of joint activation.
Communal decision.
It's not really down to one person.
So how do you see the National Centre for Photography how do you envision that at this stage? Yeah,
that's a really interesting one. So we were, before my time, lucky enough to have been awarded a state government grant. So we had $6.7 million to develop the first stage of that building.
That is so amazing.
It is. It's very exciting.
Yeah.
So that will commence soon.
Yeah.
I'm not exactly sure of the timing just yet because it's been kind of a tumultuous time in construction. But we have been talking about what is the photography landscape? I don't want to duplicate something that we already have, whether in Melbourne or in Ballarat. And just a lot of the conversation is veered towards photography but also visual imaging, which I think kind of is like, whatever that might mean.
Yeah, this is a hot topic at the moment.
It's opened up, yeah. And it was good because it allowed us last festival to do, for example, a photo opportunity where we had Lisa Rowett's 9-metre inflatable golden monkey on the outside of the National Centre.
Yes.
But it's not a photograph. It happens to be based on a photograph of an extinct snub-nosed
monkey.
And
it was photographed a lot.
So it's but it was photographed a lot.
Yes, absolutely.
And so, it was like all of those. So it doesn't, I guess we're just trying to open it up to be also about the use of your photos in your pocket or whatever it's.
But still, the core is photography, of course.
Yeah. Yes. And although we did also have an AI prize in the last festival.
Yes, you did.
So if it's not always photography, it's always about photography.
About photography or images.
And image making.
Yeah.
It's been interesting, that whole AI topic, and many of our guests that we've had on at the moment. And we've selected the people that we want for this group of interviews that we're doing for this first series have said, look, I'll talk about anything, but I don't want to talk about AI. Haven't
Yeah, it's true. People are either really keen to talk about it and want to have that conversation, or they're just not.
It's
don't,
not
don't
on
wanna,
my wheelhouse. Don't want to talk about it.
Don't
Not
wanna
interested.
talk about
Don't
it,
know.
So because we're a framework for having those conversations, so I'm sort of in a privileged position where I don't personally need to make a call one way or another, although we did make a call to make that AI show AI generated only. So what we haven't done is mix them together.
Mixed it,
And even down to the point, the show was called Prompted Peculiar, but it started out life as Camera Peculiar. And we were in discussion with Boris L. Dugson, who sort of infamously won the Sony World Photography Prize and then declined it, and he was a judge for that prize.
Oh, yes, of the two women.
Yes, but it was Boris who said, can't call it camera, there's no camera.
Yes.
And so, we sort of got around that by having an entry point for having that discussion, but not confusing it with
and it's
photography.
hugely important to be looking at the future of photography in these festivals as well, because everybody that's going, they're there for a different purpose. Some are there to exhibit, some are there because they're just interested in photography, some are there because they just happen to be in Ballarat at a time when it's snowing and they run inside.
Yeah, and some would already say, in my editing process there is an element of AI.
Of AI anyway, it's really interesting. I was having this conversation last night. I did a talk and I was talking about Australian Photography Awards, which we run at Foto Collective, and this year we've opened up to accept AI into the experimental category. And that was a huge conversation that we had with our team, and we went back and forward, and last year we had it and we said no, and this year we've had it and we said, okay, we're going to accept it in the experimental category. You have to clearly state that you've used it, that it is AI. No sneakiness. We don't want people to try and fool us. We want to have it talked about. We want to know which engine you're using, all these things. And we think, as a industry body, we want to have a place for people that are creating work like this. But it was really interesting. There's a lot of feedback and a lot of hearty conversation last night about this. But like you, I feel like we're in a position where we should be opening the floodgates a little bit to, accept kind of new works and new ideas.
But in a measured way. And we also were really scrutinised our terms and conditions so that we were clear about what we were doing, and it was sort of deliberate. Now we can react, and I suppose we'll run it again some way.
It'll be really
good. Did you get a good reaction from it?
We really did.
Yeah, great.
And it also it's a contemporary trend and allows us to have a conversation that is also about photography. So I felt comfortable enough in that space.
And also, Vanessa, it shows that you're listening.
Yeah.
Right? And that's what's so important, I think, when you're putting on these events in a local community as well.
Yeah. And it starts
you do listen.
Conversation. We're talking about it now. People were talking about it then, and I'm sure, I think it starts conversation. And we need to talk about it because we need to figure out, is it in photography?
Do you know what?
Is it not?
I've been around long enough I was part of the first digital camera that came into the country and promoting that to the advertising industry. And it was huge. It was as big as this room, bigger. And I spoke about it in another episode where people were there going, oh, this is never going to work. We travel a lot and we want to do fashion and we want to handhold it. And it wasn't that long ago that we were having these kind of crazy conversations and educating people.
Yeah.
And so the fact that you're right up there allowing a platform for all sorts of photography.
And it will be important for the National Centre too. So, having what that means in practice is there's a lot of sort of AV that, artists can use and to exhibit different types of media, but there's certainly a place for photography. And we had 437 artists photographers in the last festival.
Wow.
So I still want to say there's a very high presence of photographers, and then there was some AI
Well, I have
submissions.
to say, every time I go there through the festival, walking up and down the main streets, it's like, hi, oh my God, what are you? Oh, hi. I love it. It's like homecoming, isn't it?
Spirited.
We always hire a house the first weekend of the opening, and we have done every, for the last, 4 or 5 festivals, and we make a weekend of it. We go up and we go to all the opening things, and it's just the best. We love it. It's an escape for us to just be, amongst it all, and
just
and
wander
it was we had 59 original Polaroids of Andy Warhol last time too. So there's
that was
Love that.
wonderful.
So we kind of do place a higher priority on having original vintage works. So
But
we
also-
wouldn't do a reproduction of works like that, unless it was part of a bigger curated
Yeah.
idea.
And what else is also beautiful is there's so many great locations that are holding exhibitions up there. You've got the mining exchange. I just love that building and all those tiny little rooms off the side and all of the other places and some of the restaurants and
Actually,
the whole
I love
community.
the building site of the National Centre for Photography. Like, I love the exhibitions that have been in there and just kind of thinking about what will the future be in this place. I've really enjoyed that.
Yeah.
Absolutely. It's it's a great place to be. You've just got to wear your woolies though, don't you?
You do have to sometimes wear woolies, but we've got nice yellow umbrellas.
I love the seasons. I like a bit of wool wearing.
Oh, yeah, I do too. And we were chatting before, I don't even know if we should even say this, but Harry and I have had a put to you that we'd love to do a podcast up there at your next festival. It'd just be wonderful to be set up there and to be talking to, people coming through who have exhibiting and,
Yeah, it's we have like a lot of the artists, international artists will travel and they're giving street tours or talks and there was a nice range of personalities last time. It was excellent.
I think that's a good segue into kind of asking, for all the photographers and budding artists out there who want to kind of be a part of the Ballarat Photo Biennale, what is it that you look for in the submissions? Does it sort of start with the headliner and see what works around that, and does it build organically, or is there a very clear pathway right from the beginning of what sort of work you want to see this year?
The first one. The first one, it is really organic. It's also based on because we're a ticketed festival, there is a bit of a reliance on our draw card international headline. We want to bring that to Ballarat. We want and Australia. We want people to have the opportunity to see artists from around the world they might not have otherwise, and that kind of does lead the theme.
Yes.
And then because we have a theme, we sort of throw everything up into the mix. It's sort of and then. To me, it's like a matrix. So I would, often want to say to artists, like, submit your work by email. We don't have a formal process, but we do have an open program, which I can talk about. But at this point, even while we're developing the new festival, like everything we look at, it may have a place as an individual show. We may contemplate it for a group show, but it's there's not a set plan. Just I can't imagine it would happen like that ever.
Yes.
And do you have is there a group of you that makes those decisions?
There is, we have a team that sort of swells during the festival. So there's kind of a core creative team, although there's 3 of us in the office at the moment. One of us is about to complete her PhD in photography. So shout out to Christine. But,
we love Christine.
But look, it's an open conversation between us. We've got an arts subcommittee. And artists, we talk to the photographers and sort of. And so,
if somebody's not lucky enough to get into the festival this year, would you say it wasn't quite right for us this year? But please don't, hesitate in applying again. Like, don't see it as a fail. See it as it's not quite right now, but let's try again another time.
Yeah, I think also for us, because we don't have a set application process, I also just appreciate hi, it's me. Here's, some pictures of my work, and we will, if that might influence a theme for the next festival, or, as we bring the National Centre on board, this is a more year-round programming, and maybe we will have a more formal process for that. But it does help to know, if not this festival, then the next festival will still. It's not about the quality of your work necessarily, so it can be a little bit more serendipitous than that.
Yeah. I always say to people when they're talking about entering awards that, even if you're not shortlisted or if you're not a winner, it doesn't necessarily matter. People are still seeing your work and people still recognise you and know, and all this information is logged. And I'm sure that, people have submitted work before and it's not worked out just now, but then maybe in a couple of years you'll go, remember that submission that we saw back then, and now that really fits in.
It is, because we're visual people. We tend to sort of archive that and it stays. Totally, and then we also, you're talking about prizes. We have the Martin Cantor Portrait Prize, and we're really careful to make sure we've got expert judges on that, so they're all seeing your work.
Yeah.
And we do from time to time. We will pull out works into a group show or into a core program show from a prize, in a past year, or from the open program, and that's a sort of different, more formal process, but a really good way to get your work out there.
Yeah,
and part of the festival. So technically, you do get to know I was in a festival next to Andy Warhol, and that's
yeah, how about
she
that?
was
amazing, isn't it?
Absolutely. And I think even though the festival happens every 2 years, your in-between year is that, it's certainly not, hey, just kick back and just live in Ballarat. It's pretty full on for that whole year leading up to your next year, isn't it?
It is really full on, yeah. If I had $1 for every time someone said, oh, you must have your feet up on the table. No, because we do a lot of, we have to sort of report and then acquit our funding, and we have to fundraise for the entire festival outside of ticket sales. So, there's a lot of gearing up for the next one.
And are you looking for volunteers ever? Do you have? I know that when we've been up there's a lot of people with lanyards are running around.
Oh, Sally, thank you for asking that question. We had 125 volunteers last festival. We're really reliant on volunteers, and we offer free unlimited access if you've done half a day of volunteering. So by rights, you could come in and volunteer, which is sitting in a space for half a day, and then go and. And
so, Vanessa, if somebody is interested and they're listening, and how could they become a volunteer?
Then probably the best way is to either jump on our website, and you can
which is
apply through the volunteer portal, which is Ballarat Foto, FOTO.org, or you can also send an email to info@ballaratphoto. Yeah, sorry.
No, that's okay. Yeah, fantastic.
You've got to remember that it's an F and not a PH.
Yes, it is an F.
European Photo.
BFIB, that's right. So, well, that's wonderful. And if nobody got that information or hasn't had an opportunity to write that down, you can always contact myself or Harry through our websites. And I know that those that have volunteered, and I've certainly volunteered over the years to do lots of different things, you're a part of something hugely special, and it's a great, massive networking event.
Yes.
You're inspired. You get to meet all these extraordinary people that are in one space at a time, and there's great restaurants and food, and it's all happening up there, really, isn't it?
It's
magic.
just you're
a bit of a Ballarat plug.
The photography is just completely surrounding you. That's what I love. You're just walking from one place to another, and suddenly, there's an exhibition down that street on the wall, on the floor, or on the walls.
Lake Wendouree, out there, the outdoor exhibitions, and there's all sorts of stuff going, and the churches, and
the heritage architecture of Ballarat's a really gorgeous background to it. And I started thinking about it as a symphony. It's kind of quite lyrical or musical in that way, and it's a nice, with all the genres, and it sort of just becomes this really great chorus. And like photography is actually not dissimilar to music in that way. It's like another kind of direct language that doesn't need translation, so it works really well in an international setting because if you're writing something in Saudi Arabia, it can be read in Japan or Brazil, and it was like, some of the photographers were interested in, like Sebastian Salgado said something like that, and that's sort of how, at least I've started to think about it. It's a symphony of, just in this case, photography.
Absolutely. And Vanessa, one of the things that we, when we started this podcast, we sort of talked to each other about why do we do what we do? And we thought that's a really great way to sort of round out each conversation with our guests. And so we'd like to say to you now, why do you do this? Why have you got into this industry? And
well, apart from being extremely satisfying to seeing the product of 2 years of work going up, and it can also seem quite meaningful to people in purpose. Like a lot of photographers are intrepid and they travel and they're curious about the world, and to be able to see the manifestation of your life's work and share it with other people through a visual format, I just find that very rewarding. And being able to describe that feeling to people who also aren't necessarily refined in a visual language is also effective, and it can be quite deeply affecting in surprising ways. So that's what I do.
Oh, well, look,
Amazing.
if last year's was anything to go by, we are so excited about next year, and we're also really excited about doing our podcast up there with you as well.
I think
Just plug that again.
That's great, Sally. I think you're getting us right in there.
There we are. There we
You're
are.
in.
It's my job.
Thank you so much for coming in, Vanessa. It's been so wonderful to meet you properly and talk to you
too.
and hear what all the things you're doing up there in Ballarat and hear a bit of your story.
It's a pleasure.
It's
Thank
been,
you.
it's absolutely been
Both.
fantastic.
I just want to also thank ColArts for lending us your podcast booths today as well. Shaquille and Tristan for doing all the audio stuff that we know nothing about, who have made us sound amazing.
Thank goodness. Thank you, guys.
Thank you.
And Martin for the incredible intro and outro music. Thank you, Sally.
Thank you, Harry.
And thanks again, Vanessa.
Thanks, Vanessa. We'll
Thanks.
see you next
Bye.
time. Bye guys.
Bye.